I think when it comes to AI HL math, it's very difficult conceptually. There's a certain skill that CourseLeap helps you develop, which is critical thinking.
Pre-IB was a turning point as far as Prisha is concerned.
I'm so glad that CourseLeap offers APs because you never really have to stop educating yourself.
Every IB student should take pre-IB.
My name is Prisha Jani, and I'm from Dubai, and this is my father, Tushar Jani, and I study at DIA Emirates Hills here in Dubai. My three HL subjects are Math AI Higher Level, Business, and Chemistry HL, and I hope to do Finance and Quantitative Econ in university. With CourseLeap, I've done the pre-IB Math HL Math course. I've also done pre-IB Economics, even though I don't take it. I also did AP Micro and Macroeconomics with CourseLeap. I do IB Mathematics Higher Level for the AI course. I also do French ab initio with CourseLeap.
We were lucky because we knew Ms. Dhingra and the family. When things were coming up, I decided to take Prisha to Ms. Dhingra. She had a quick assessment what Prisha was all about. And she suggested this nice pre-IB program. And I think so that was a big change for Prisha. So I would recommend every parent who is sending the kid to IB to look pre-IB program by CourseLeap. And it was quite enlightened for Prisha. It prepared Prisha for IB, and it gives in-depth understanding how IB is going to be turning out, in the journey ahead. Of course, teachers were good. Ms. Dhingra was looking after personally, and we had regular interaction with Ms. Dhingra, with her as a student, along with the parents. And we had quite open discussion how to go, what to go, and where to go about it. So I think so pre-IB was a turning point as far as Prisha is concerned.
I agree. I think I was in NYP standard math, and compared to even extended math or any other curriculum that's provided, I would definitely say that it's on the easier side, especially foundationally. I was quite weak, but I knew that I aspired to take a higher level form of math in DP because I knew that I had the potential to pursue higher level math. And pre-IB was really this turning point that bridged the foundation that was so weak of mine and kind of cultivated these mathematical skills like critical thinking that's so necessary in my AIHL course. The key to succeeding in IB is always being not over-prepared, but being pre-prepared, if that's a word. The fact that I was so confident about half of the syllabus, especially a lot of the HL concepts, when I went into AIHL, I was able to get past all of my 11th grade with flying colors because those concepts were now not being introduced to me, but rather being revised. I think when it comes to AIHL math, it's very difficult conceptually, but not the actual concepts. They're quite simple, but their actual application to word problem questions. There's a certain skill that CourseLeap helps you develop, which is critical thinking after they establish your foundation. And that was one of the main things that helped me, especially when you look at paper 3 and paper 2. It's not how much math you know, but how well you're able to apply it. And they kept challenging me with different levels of questions. The questions were quite unique. It was very out of the box. I've never had an easy time answering a question because I've always been challenging myself such that any unfamiliar thing that comes up in the test, I already know how to circumvent it because we identify keywords to look out for whenever they ask something. They're key terms to kind of identify. It's a method, to be honest. It's not really something you can't learn critical thinking, but there's definitely a way that you can hack it. So that's one of my favorite things about the AI course here.
I must say this, and credit goes to CourseLeap and faculties. The last presentation which she showed to me, internal assessment, it was the level of a degree course of math. I thought it was a very high standard. The proficiency which CourseLeap teachers bring in the student, it's not just knowing the subject, how you can put the subject to use and to understand. And it was not kind of mugging up. It was well researched, well thought, well written, well understood. And I think that's the basic principle of IB, that it is research based and query based. And I could see that proficiency into that presentation. So I was quite happy to see that. Of course, I don't know the French, but she is also very proud of her French teacher. And I think so. Her school French teachers are very proud of her for the proficiency in French. And this was his last 2 years of French.
It's actually only been 1.5.
1.5. In 18 months, she got a good amount of proficiency. So, I think it's very important what CourseLeap has shaped. It's kind of polished her. So every kid is intelligent, but to polish them and bring out the best, and that's what the CourseLeap does.
I think contrary to other students, I really wanted it to be something difficult. I knew that I wanted to go into finance and I wanted to establish a personal connection between my predilection towards finance and also the math we do in AIHL. So I definitely took an extremely unfamiliar route, something that was unfamiliar to me and even a lot of my peers in school. I explored modeling, calculating, and proving value at risk and conditional value at risk through an amalgamation of integration methods, Monte Carlo simulations, and proofs as well. So I was also able to derive a formula to calculate value at risk using a variance covariance method, prove that formula, graph it, find an expected derivation of that formula called conditional value at risk. It was a conditional expectation of that, model it using Monte Carlo simulation, and re-verify the Monte Carlo simulation using integration by parts. In my opinion, amalgamation of statistics, because I used z-scores, I used inverse normal, I used many theorems, but I also used a lot of integration and summation formulas. So that was what it really was about. It gave me a lot of intel into risk and also probabilistic measures of calculating risk.
I think so. What was the crown on the jewel was that the teacher in her school actually told her to tone it down for the level what she has written. I think the credit goes to the math faculty. Miss Vibu was
She
there.
was extremely helpful. It was a new concept for both of us, actually, because obviously, who knows this random theorem in valuation and in risk management? And we both were really able to navigate it. This I was extremely lengthy because all we had was this 20-year old research paper written by Professor Rockefeller at University of Florida, and this 50-page proof that somehow we had to deduce and make applicable for a 12th grader to write. And we really were able to I think I know so much about this topic now where I can still imagine the normal distribution curve in my head. Obviously, I've been into finance and business because of my dad. And last summer, I was at KPMG for an internship. So I was working in valuations and mergers and acquisitions. And while I was there, I was researching different risk management tools. And I also parallelly was looking at what universities I wanted to apply to for my undergrad education. And I came across NYU Stern, which I'm now committed to. But there was this one professor named Professor Ashwad Damodran. I'm sure many people have heard of him. And I really found all of his works, his PDFs online, where his presentations on risk management, and it was genuinely so alluring because I was able to finally apply the math I learned in school into these metrics. Obviously, he didn't go into the math of it. It was more finance based and more theoretical, but I wanted to know that this model, you're using mathematical terms to explain it, you're using tails and distributions. Why don't we mathematically solve it? And that's really what I wanted to do. I wanted to establish how the formula was derived and how, obviously, without using a calculator, if you were going to theoretically, analytically solve it, how you would go about it. I think it was kind of an amalgamation of those two things where I finally finalized that this is what I want to do in the future. And yeah.
I think the one other thing I remember when we met Miss Dhingra along with Prisha and Nalini for the first meeting, then second and third meeting, must give credit to Ms. Dhingra that she told me, Tushar, Prisha will be on auto, don't worry. So she had that good judgment. And I think so the way she selected teachers for her, the way she selected what she would study was quite a good strategy, I would say so. And Prisha always wanted to go to Stern School in NYU. That was her first choice. And because of her overall personality got developed with confidence in math, in business, in economics, because the AP teachers were good with CourseLeap. And she able to put her strong application with NYU Stern to get at the ED1 straight out of at Stern.
When I initially went into to economics thinking I was going to do it in the IB. However, my school wasn't offering it for me because I had taken business in the MYP and not economics, taken business in 9th and 10th grade. But I knew that I still really wanted to have that economics background. I knew that it was so foundational to anything I wanted to do. Even if I ultimately wanted to go into business and finance, I needed to know what was going on in the world. And I went to Miss Dhingra and I was like, what do I do? They're not giving me economics. What's gonna happen? And she told me about the AP economics course they were offering. She told me how she walked me through the entire process of how they're gonna be FRQs and MCQs. And I realized that it was a program that was much more suited for me than IB Econ was. And I did micro and macro. And initially, I think there was a lot of trepidation around that because I'm doing 6 IB subjects in the first year. I'm giving my SAT, but also taking 2 additional subjects. A lot of people were like, drop one or only take one, but I knew I just had to fulfill that. And I'm really glad that Miss Neha and also my econ teacher believed in me. And it was filled with a lot of theory lessons, but also a lot of questions. It was like we were in exam mode from day one. When I went there for the exam, there was nothing that was actually unexpected for me. And it was during such a complicated period in my life where I had my English IOs lined up, mock IOs, mock tests, final exams, and I was so stressed because I felt like I barely had any time to study for it before, but it was actually that entire barely even a year because we started in September and the exam was in May of preparation that helped me be so confident on the day of my AP tests. I did microeconomics and macro and I got 5 and a 4, which was so surprising to me because I never thought that I would be someone who could be good in economics and who could actually excel in a subject like that. And I'm so grateful to CourseLeap because they were able to actually provide me with this extra credit now that I can go to university and this credit is gonna help me get out of certain classes or graduate faster, or it's such a booster to anyone's application that I believe that even as an IB student, I'm so glad that CourseLeap offers APs because you never really have to stop educating yourself. You shouldn't be restricted by the bounds of the IBDP. If you want to take another subject, go for it. And one thing I love about Miss Neha is that she really didn't make me feel like I was taking 8 advanced level subjects or 8 high difficult subjects. It just felt like I was cruising through life and learning. When I go to university, I want to have that same level of discipline and dedication because it really is instilled in you. But at the same time, I want to, again, have that same ability to critically think and solve issues and I want to always address every single problem head on. There have been so many times where I've brought my tutors and my teachers questions, they might be from a different syllabus or they might be from a different curriculum by itself, but they still kind of apply to what we've learned. And I'm still able to solve them. So I didn't feel like I was ever doing IB French, IB AIHL, but I felt like I was just becoming a more well-rounded person because at the end, obviously you go out with specific skills for AIHL, but I still feel like I can go and take a math course in university now and I can still use the same tricks and tips that I learned here in those courses. which is really great.
I saw Prisha more confident, and we shifted from India to Dubai. So there was that transition. So she had a new school, new setup, but she was quite confident. And I think so what CourseLeap did is to teach her how to make it way through to complete her task, complete her study, be ready for the exams or final, depending on to stand for those tests. And not only that, with those higher grades, what she was getting, she became more and more and more confident. And most important, what I would tell the parents about a slave, it brings certain amount of scheduling discipline in your child, because there is a teacher who's going to come. There is a time you have to be there, you have to prepare, and without getting out of your house. I think so. That was key. And of course, Ms. Dingra's strategy, uh, she really applied her mind and we strategized the whole thing. And overall, it was a great journey. And my sincere thanks to Neha and the team.
And obviously, I know it's the end, but I genuinely wanted to mention this. I know grades are definitely not everything, and they're not obviously an indicator of how successful someone might be. But I think one thing I realized that was when I was in standard math in the MYP, I would get consistent sixes and fives sometimes, honestly. It was very tumultuous for me. I might have gotten a seven in one test, but could get a five in the next one. And I didn't feel that stability because I knew inherently the content I was learning was supposed to be simple, but I just did not have that confidence. I would go into every single test feeling kind of this wave of discomfort come over me because even if I was extremely prepared, I just wouldn't be able to get good grades. And I think that coming into math AIHL, I did not expect a seven, to be honest. I really did not. And I would go on my first test, I was so afraid because I didn't know what this territory was. But it's come to a point where I haven't gone a grade below a seven in touch with the past 2 years of this course. And in fact, it's come to a point where I've become very relaxed with my tests, where I'm calm. And I think because of this constant preparation that we're having, even when I don't have tests. I had this one random pop quiz around 2 weeks ago during the same time as my IA, and I wasn't able to prepare for it that much because I had so many other things going on. So I definitely relaxed my way through it. Didn't obviously prepare as harshly as I did before because I didn't have time to. And I still got a seven. It was obviously a lower seven, but it just comes to show that I have become so much more confident in my ability to take these tests. I know that this sounds cliche, but ultimately it's getting over the own boundary that you set for yourself. Because when I knew I was going to take HL math with my current grades, I knew that I wasn't constricted by my grades. My 5 6s were not a boundary that represented anything about me. And I think it's so difficult to get over that because obviously I went into AIHL expecting six at most, but there's a point of time where you really have to get over whatever you've done in your past and have faith in your teachers and have faith in your own self. I think pre-IB put so much confidence back into me because it recapped so much of MYP that was hard. And that was one of the main parts where I was like, this is actually easy. And I think just if you're pre-prepared, I think there's nowhere you can go wrong, especially because I knew so much beforehand going into IB HL math that there were things that other people were learning for the first time that I was just revising again. And I genuinely don't think there's anything such as being bad at math. It's just about dedication and training. And I think people who have maybe lower grades right now, I don't think that they should use that as a reason to give up or underestimate themselves or the level of math that they're able to take. If you truly believe that you have the discipline to take a higher form of any education and you truly believe that you're going to be able to fulfill that for yourself, go for it. Don't be restricted by pass numbers because they don't define you. Yeah, I think that's the main thing.
That scare, the fear, because of the CourseLeap faculties, that's gone completely. So she's not very fearful for the test. So I think that's a change. What I would advise parents to keep in mind that what you look at in 8th, 9th, then suddenly kids goes on 10th, 11th, and 12th. There's a lot of work, lot of quantity work, of course, quality. I would advise parents to make children to go into schedule planning, day planning, so they have enough recreation rather than getting burdened. And, have equal distribution of preparation, test, work, and recreation. So it's not easy. There's a lot of work. If any of parents wants to have a word with me as a parent or Prisha as a student, we are more than welcome to refer our name.
I don't know if this would be a hashtag, but maybe a tagline. I really like it. The time will pass anyways. Start now. And I think that's really what CourseLeap taught me, where I could go through GP the same way I went through MYP, kind of lamenting what had, lamenting my academics, but I knew that the time was gonna pass anyways. You're gonna do those tests either way. If you start now, at least you're gonna have a better grasp than you would tomorrow or the day after. Yeah, that's really what I would describe CourseLeap like.